Welcome to Pario magazine, where I chat with individuals who have a desire to create. Today, I'm joined by an indie pop rock musician who has just released his new album, Reverie. Welcome to Pario magazine, Andy Martin.
Hey, how's it going, Jamie?
Great.
I'm very excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So like I mentioned, we're here today to chat about your journey through the world of music and the new album. Before we dive into that, who is Andy Martin away from the music studio?
I work for a charity called Solar Buddy, and I help run education programs for kids from disproportionately affected backgrounds in predominantly remote and rural communities around Australia. So we run a STEM education program for the kids, and it's really hands-on, engaging, and it's quite fulfilling. I find I love that side of my job. And then apart from that, I just love cooking. I love doing a bit of exercise, and I just love being around people and feeling real homey. I feel like I'm a bit of a homebody. So music's my way of expression. But once I go out and play the music and do that sort of thing, I can't wait to kind of crawl back into my shell, back in the home life as well.
Okay. So then in terms of the music, when did you first discover that passion?
I've been playing various different types of music since I was about 8 years old. So I first picked up the trumpet at 8 years old, which I still play to this day, which is a funny one that not too many people know. And then going through my formative years, going through high school, I found a bit more of a passion for contemporary music, and mum and dad got me a guitar. I remember, I think it was my 13th birthday, and I just started fumbling around and teaching myself some things. And then my love and passion for music just started to grow and grow and grow and grow. I moved down to South Australia to perform and study music in 2015, and then I moved down to Brisbane because I'm originally from Cairns. I moved down to Brisbane in 2016, and that's where I started to, I suppose, immerse myself a little bit more in the local music scene, started playing gigs around Brisbane. And then it's been the last couple of years where I've been writing and recording under the Andy Martin project. And since then, I released an EP at the end of 2020, and then I started doing a little bit of touring here and there, COVID permitting, and then I'd been slowly chipping away at the album that came out last week. So it's pretty cool to finally have that one out.
So when you moved down to South Australia, just moved away from there because it was too cold, based
Oh
on
yeah,
the
I was
difference
living
between
in
that and Cairns?
oh, it's a crazy difference. I was living in a small country town called Mount Gambier. So it was, I remember the winters were -2, -3 most mornings when I woke up, compared to Cairns where I'm getting up in winter and it's 22 degrees. So it's a bit of a difference, but it was a great year. I was at a jazz academy playing trumpet, and I met some amazing musicians, and that also kind of fueled my passion for music down there as well.
Okay. And you mentioned sort of picking up the trumpet. That's kind of an unusual first instrument. How did that sort of come in?
My dad has played brass music since he was about the same age as I was at 8 years old. And I remember dad bought a trumpet for my brother, Craig, my older brother. And he played it for a couple of years, but it wasn't really his thing. So I think it was just mum and dad said they're like, you want to play music? Here's this instrument, start learning this. And then it kind of happened quite organically. And it's funny because a lot of the tracks that are on the album, probably 4 or 5 of them actually have some horns in certain parts of it. So I'm playing all the horns and stuff on the album, and I just think it's a bit of it was an easy one for mum and dad, because I just said, I want to do music, I want to get involved in music, what can I do? And they're like, here's a trumpet, go to school, learn the trumpet. I'm like, all right, sounds great. And then I just picked it up from there. And then all of the other instruments, that was the only instrument I've had, I'd like to say, technical and like proper training on. And all of the other ones I've just kind of fumbled around and taught myself and had a bit of fun with.
Okay. So it was kind of just them trying to get some value out of that purchase.
Yep, pretty much.
And then in terms of the musical influences, who have been some of the biggest influences on you, and how have those changed over the years?
Growing up, probably I'd like to say I started really trying to write music, and I was writing absolutely rubbish songs for about 5 years, from year 10, 11 until just out of high school. So that's probably, yeah, 10 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago now. My influences back then were all around folk music. So I listened to a lot of Jack Johnson, a lot of Ben Howard, and a lot of that kind of realm. And then moving later in high school, I thought I was pretty cool. I was listening to a lot of indie music. So bands like the Wombats, Two Door Cinema Club, the Jungle Giants when they were just starting out, similar San Cisco when they were just starting out, all those sort of indie guitar bands. That's who I really loved listening to, and that's who I drew a lot of influence from. And then growing through the last 3 or 4 years, I've been listening to a lot of indie singer-songwriters, but more down a similar realm of the music that I write and perform, like artists that I really listen to a lot, and I suppose I take some influence from, like Sam Fender, Ty and James Organ, and down that Australian like indie soundscape. So it's quite rocky and driving rhythmic music, but it's still got like pop elements, and it's still got singer-songwriter in its bones, I guess.
Yep.
Because I write all of my songs at the acoustic guitar. And I think that's always in the back of my head. If it sounds good at the acoustic guitar, it'll probably translate well into a recorded setting. And if I feel like it's not sounding good at the acoustic guitar, I don't think it's a good song at the end of the day. For me,
Yeah, I guess
anyway, for my music.
I guess you need to have that, yeah, solid base foundation to build off and add more layers to.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
And as we mentioned, you've just released the new album Reverie. How are you feeling now that that is out in the wild?
Well, it's pretty, I don't know. It's been a crazy last couple of weeks for me. I got the keys to my new place on the day I released the album. So I've been moving house at the same time as doing these sort of interviews at the same time as trying to promote the album. And it's just been quite a crazy week for me. But in terms of the reception to the album, I couldn't be happier. I think you obviously have like your normal network of friends and family that will message you when you're releasing music and that are really proud of you. But I think the response to the music from a media perspective and a radio perspective has been better than I thought. Like I think the music's good, but I always find it hard as an independent artist to sometimes crack through. But I feel like the album's got a bit of legs, and I feel like the reception has been awesome. I've had lots of randos messaging me about it. I've had lots of people that are saying we're keen to get down to the shows, that people I've never met, people that I've never seen, which to me is always quite humbling, and it makes me feel pretty like there is an audience for the music that I write and record. So I'm chuffed. I'm loving it. It's been awesome, and I can't wait to play these shows over the next month as well and hear people singing the new songs. I think that's going to be a pretty cool feeling.
Yep. Given that it has been sort of such a busy time, has you sort of settled in that the album is out now, or are you still kind of in a bit of a
Oh,
whirlwind?
I think I think it'll be once the tour's finished is when I can probably sit back and I suppose reflect and appreciate and celebrate what I've done, because it's a big slog, money wise, emotional energy that you put into an album, time and everything else that goes into these things. I think I'm just looking forward to I'm really looking forward to touring. So this next month's going to be sick. And then the month after that, when I get the time to actually sit back and think about it and reflect on the shows that we've played and all of that sort of stuff, I think that's when it'll settle in a little bit more. And even just the fact that I've already got studio time locked in a couple of months again to get back in and keep rolling and keep the releases going. I think it'll be important for me to sit down and reflect on it, but at this stage, it hasn't really settled in 100%.
Okay. And for people that may not have listened to an Andy Martin track before, how do you describe this album?
This album from top to bottom is just a reflection on my stories and things that have happened in my life over the last 3 to 4 years. So I write a lot about when I'm not presently in that moment. So a lot of the songs I write are reflections on situations that I've been in or stories that I've heard from friends that I've kind of fabricated and crafted into a song. But in terms of the music, it's always quite guitar and rhythm driven. So it's indie in its bones. And across the album, you hear like pop rock songs, you hear rock songs, you hear At the end, Don't Go Without Me, which is the closer on the album, is like a more folky reflection, and that's a big horn feature, and that's just acoustic guitars. That's no amplified instruments, I say, you'd say. It's yeah, I think the album overall is just like conceptually like an indie record, but I think there are elements of my influences, like the trumpet and some of the artists that I've listened to from a singer-songwriter perspective for years and years. I think it's all kind of weaved in and out of the album, but yeah, there is more guitar-driven songs, there's more folk-driven songs, and I like to base things around melody, and I think the album really, I suppose, what would you say, really shows that off, I feel.
Okay. And do you think that process of writing after an event and sort of looking back on it gives you that benefit of hindsight and you're able to sort of weave in a bit more of a defined message to the songs?
Yeah, 100%. As I was saying before, even when it like comes to stories that have happened in my own life and things that I'm reflecting upon, I still kind of fabricate some of the details because the messaging I want to be able to flow through, and obviously everything's not going to be 100% relative to that exact point in time. So I think fabricating the story to either give this message or go down this path, I think it's quite important with the songs that I'm writing, and the songs, I believe a lot of artists would be fabricating the stories that they write, but there's a couple of things that they would hold on to from their personal lives that would really be the, I suppose, where the song would be centered around.
Mhm. And this is probably a very difficult question, but is there a favorite track from the album?
Um, if you'd asked me a while ago, I would have probably said the title track, Reverie. As soon as I wrote that in my room, I thought this is going to be what the album's called, because I was really like, this is the song, this is it. But for me, I think over the last few months and having the chance to listen to the album, my favorite song would probably be With You. That's the 5th song on the album, and I think that just, for me, that's kind of like, I'm really happy. This is a song that I think I've crafted really well as a songwriting wise, and I think the melodies are quite sweet, and I think I think everything kind of worked when I recorded it. I was like, oh, will this work? I don't know. Well, I'll try this thing. Oh, we might leave that out. Oh, we'll do this. And I felt like it wasn't really, the cogs weren't in motion 100% of the time when I was writing and recording this song. But then the final product, I can sit back and say that I'm really stoked with it. So With You is one of the ones that I'd like people to listen to if they haven't heard that yet.
Okay. Is that unusual for when you're experimenting with different bits and pieces that they all just work?
Uh, not all the time. Definitely not all the time. But I find that sometimes I've got too much tunnel vision when I write a song. I'm going in with such a clear head, and this is the idea, and this is how it's all going to work. This guitar line will go here, and this bass lick will go in this when there's no vocals. And I've always got kind of like a scientific, mathematical way of doing things. But I think sometimes the best music comes from if I'm working with somebody and they say, hey, why don't we just try this?
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, all right. And then it will do it. And I'm like, sweet, that's it. That's what I needed. I didn't need all of the mathematical songwriting, technical ways of doing things. I think if it happens organically, then I think it normally will work most of the time.
Okay. And as we're speaking, you're about to begin the tour in support of the album tonight. How are you feeling ahead of the live shows?
Oh, I'm feeling stoked. It's as I said, the last couple of weeks have been pretty crazy with obviously the releasing of the album, but moving house and everything else. And it's been hard to get all of the band in one room and rehearse because they're also really, really busy guys. But we had a big rehearsal on Sunday and it's sounding killer. I couldn't be more stoked. I think the live shows are really, for me, like it's quite a stressful, anxious part of doing the music for me leading up to it. So like the days before, not knowing if I've sold any tickets because I've got somebody else that handles that, because that's one thing that really stresses me out.
Mhm.
So not knowing if I've sold any tickets to the shows, but I think going into it with that mindset of if we play to 5 or 5,000 people, and going into it with the exact same mindset, we're going to put on a show, we're going to kill it, then I think that's what gets me going. And when I'm out there, I always run on adrenaline. so I sometimes don't even know what I'm doing. So I think the live shows, I'm really, really excited. Once I get there and once I'm playing, it's one of the best feelings on earth. But I think there are quite some stressful parts of it. So having other people handle things like ticket sales and bookings and all of that sort of stuff for me really does take the weight off my shoulders a little bit more. But after the rehearsal on Sunday, I'm just feeling amped.
Okay. And then in September, you're arriving in Bondi, Sydney, and Wollongong for a run of shows. What can an audience expect from those shows in particular?
So the Bondi show, I'm playing solo acoustic. So that'll be a more stripped back version of all of the songs on the album. I'm going to play every song on the album at that Bondi show. And then we're playing at Highway Bar in Enmore. And I'm really excited for that show. It's my first headline show down in Sydney, because I've come down to Sydney and played shows before, but it's my first headline show. So I'm really excited to play that. I think people can just expect fun, dancey, good times. Like the guys that I play with in the band are just top notch, so the rhythm's always quite locked in, and people can just expect to have a good time. And then Wollongong, we're playing a big lineup down at the North Gong Hotel with a band called South Summit, another band called False London, and an artist called Meadow Hip. And I think that's going to be a really fun show as well. I've never been to Wollongong in my life, so I think that's one of the exciting things for me in getting to do this tour, and then the tours that we're going to be doing next year is just going to places that we've never been before, and not only playing for the crowds there, but just getting to see a bit more of Australia that I haven't seen before. I think that's one of the cool things about music. If you can tour around and see some places that you've never seen before, it's a pretty cool thing. But yeah, people can just expect to have a good time. They can hear some great storytelling about how I crafted the music. They can hear some bad jokes, and they can have a great time.
Yep. I like that idea of people being able to go to the Bondi show and catch the stripped back acoustic gig, and then come to either the Enmore or Wollongong show and get the bigger full band experience as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think, as I said, I really try to write the music at the acoustic guitar, because I believe it doesn't, and this is, once again, this is only in my style of music, but I feel it won't have enough legs and it won't translate to an audience. But when I've got these songs that people can hear acoustically, and they can listen to the little nuances in the songwriting and the way that I've crafted the vocals and how things kind of weave in together, I think both ideas are like quite special. But obviously the band show, you get the whole scenario, you get what you'd hear similar to what you'd hear in the recordings.
Okay. And then finally, where is the best place for people to support you and track this creative journey moving forward?
All of the standard places that people can listen to music and just kind of see what I'm up to. I'm most active on my Instagram account. So that's _ Andy Martin. And then on Spotify and Apple Music, you can find me, and it's just under Andy Martin. I've got a big image of my face on the thing, so hopefully it's not too hard for people to see. Kind of a selfish thing being a solo musician. Sometimes it's your face plastered on everything.
Mhm.
But yeah, people can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere they listen to music. Yeah, Instagram's probably another good bet, because that's where I'm the most active on my socials. But yeah, anywhere where people listen to music.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, and good luck with the tour.
Thanks heaps, Jamie. I'm really excited for the tour, and thanks for having me on Pario Magazine.